Greetings, kindred. How y'all doing today? Hope it's been a blessed day for you. Today we're going to continue our study of the book of Ezekiel, a study written by Pastor Lancelot Knight of the former King's Chapel. And today we're going to begin with Ezekiel 22, verse 17. So if you haven't seen the previous studies, I highly recommend you go back and start from the beginning and then catch up with us here. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. The following is a message from Yahweh Elohim to the whole house of Israel. And I'm just going to add here that means the houses of Israel, the 10 tribes, and also the house of Judah, which is the other 2 tribes. Okay, Ezekiel 22:17. And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, the house of Israel is to me become dross. All they are brass and tin and iron and lead in the midst of the furnace. They are even the dross of silver. Quote, silver is usually found combined with other elements in minerals and ores. Silver occurs as a constituent of lead, copper, and zinc ores, and half of the world's production of silver is obtained as a byproduct in the processing of such ores, unquote. That's from Funk and Wagnall's Encyclopedia, 1986, volume 23, page 425. The refining process that is used to separate the base metals and the impurities, called slag or dross, from gold or silver is called smelting. The silver ore is heated to a molten state in a high-temperature blast furnace, and the base metals and the worthless slag separate from the silver. Silver melts at 1,764 degrees Fahrenheit and boils at about 4,014 degrees Fahrenheit. So our Father has likened the house of Israel to that of the base metals and the worthless slag of silver. In today's language, we would just say they are a bunch of scumbags. Verse 19, Therefore, thus saith Yahweh Elohim, because ye are all become dross, behold, therefore, I will gather you into the midst of Jerusalem. Do you get the feeling this is not going to be a party or a gala wedding affair? Verse 20. And they gather silver and brass and iron and lead and tin into the midst of the furnace to blow the fire upon it, to melt it. So will I gather you in mine anger and in my fury, and I will leave you there and melt you. Uh-oh, it's going to be a hot time in the old town tonight. Ezekiel 22, verse 21. Yea, I will gather you and blow upon you in the fire of my wrath, and ye shall be melted in the midst thereof. You know that our Father is not going to literally melt people. He's simply going to test them in the furnace of judgment. That which is bad shall be consumed, while that which is good will be separated and purified. You see, it is written in Hebrews 12:29, quote, For our Theos is a consuming fire, unquote. Verse 22, As silver is melted in the midst of the furnace, so shall ye be melted in the midst thereof, and ye shall know that I, Yahweh, have poured out my fury upon you. If you are gold or silver, then the fire will not harm you. If you are stubble, i.e. straw, you'll be sent up in smoke in a big hurry. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the 3 friends of Daniel, were actually tossed into the literal fire by the king of Babylon, and they were not so much as singed or even hickory smoked. That was done so that we could see that if we are one of Yahweh's children in this final generation, then the fiery darts of Satan, Ephesians 6, and the spiritual blast furnace of verse 22 will not harm us. Of course, Daniel didn't get tossed into the fiery furnace with his friends, but he was still tried by fire figuratively. He was tossed into a den of ravenous, hungry lions. See verse 25 to find out who they represent. From this example, we will learn that even man-eating lions are as pussycats when the angel of Yahweh is with you. This concept of being tried by fire has been used by Paul, Peter, and even Yeshua Christ. Here are some examples from the New Testament. 1 Corinthians 3, verses 11 through 13. For other foundation can no man lay than that is laid, which is Yeshua Christ. 12. Now if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, verse 13, every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire, and the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. If you are gold, silver, or precious stone, you have nothing to worry about. If you are wood, hay, or stubble, then the fire will consume you. 1 Peter 1, verse 7. That the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Yeshua Christ. We are made strong and purified through trials and tribulations. It gets rid of the slag. Yeshua also had some advice for those of the church of Laodicea, the types who are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold. Revelation 3, verse 18. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that you mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear. And anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. So, come on, baby, light my fire. Ezekiel 22, verse 23. And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, verse 24, Son of man, say unto her, Thou art the land that is not cleansed, nor rained upon in the day of indignation. Those who claim to be, who should be, the tillers of the ground, have not prepared the field, nor caused the fruitful rain of Yahweh's word to fall. Instead, there is a conspiracy among the prophets, those who claim to represent him. Verse 25. There is a conspiracy of her prophets in the midst thereof, like a roaring lion ravening the prey. They have devoured souls, they have taken the treasure and precious things. They have made her many widows in the midst thereof. Hey, there's your roaring lion. And lo and behold, they are prophets, supposedly so, men of Yahweh. Imagine that. They have devoured souls, nephesh, and they have ripped everyone off. Conspiracy equals kesher. Hebrews 7:195 from Hebrews 7:194. Quasher, an unlawful alliance, confederacy, conspiracy, treason. It comes from quashar, which means to bind, kashar, a primitive root to tie, physical, gird, confine, compact, or mentally, in love, league, bind up, make, a conspire, or conspiracy, conspirator, join together, knit, stronger, work, or treason. Would religious men of Yahweh conspire to bind people and devour their souls? Nephesh in Hebrew? Would they take treasure and money and precious things? If you haven't read the letter that the translators of the 1611 King James Bible wrote to the English reader, then you might not suspect church systems to be conspirators. So here's a little excerpt from that letter. From the translators to the reader. Now, the Church of Rome would seem at the length to bear a motherly affection toward her children and to allow them scriptures in their mother tongue, but indeed it is a gift not deserving to be called a gift, an unprofitable gift. They must first get a license in writing before they may use them, and to get that, they must approve themselves to their confessor, that is, to be such as are, if not frozen in the dregs, yet soured with the leaven of their superstition. Howbeit it seemed too much to Clement VIII that there should be any license granted to have them in the vulgar tongue. And therefore he overruled and frustrated the grant of Pius IV. So much are they afraid of the light of the Scripture. Lucifuge scripturium, as Tertullian speaketh, that they will not trust the people with it, no, not as it is set forth by their own sworn men, no, not with the license of their own bishops and inquisitors. Yes, so unwilling they are to communicate the Scriptures to the people's understanding in any sort, that they are not ashamed to confess that we force them to translate it into English against their wills. This seems to argue a bad cause or a bad conscience, or both. Sure we are, that it is not he that hath good gold that is afraid to bring it to the touchstone, but he that hath counterfeit. Neither is it the true man that shunned the light, but the malefactor, lest his deeds should be reproved. Neither is it the plain-dealing merchant that is unwilling to have the weights or the meter yard brought in place, but he that uses deceit. But we will let them alone for this fault and return to translation. If you think things have changed in this final generation, then you are deceived. Indeed, it has gotten worse. The deception and the lies and the conspiracy has encompassed almost the entirety of Christianity. Did not Yeshua Christ foretell that it would be so? Did he not say that many would come in his name and deceive many, the multitudes? How? By not teaching his word and instead teaching the precepts of men. And so our people are starved of the true word of Yahweh, and it has become the famine of the final generation, just as Christ foretold of. Amos spells it out in detail. Amos 8, verse 11. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh Elohim, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh. There's the famine Christ spoke of. Verse 12. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of Yahweh, and shall not find it. They shall wander from sea to sea, and find but crumbs and containers of spiritual garbage. Yes, the biblical foretellers of what is going to happen, prophets, have conspired and convinced the majority of Christians that they are going to be raptured and not have to face the king of Babylon. It's a lie. Remember, chapter 13 of Ezekiel, Yahweh hates those who teach his children to fly to save their souls. Ezekiel 22, verse 26. Her priests have violated my law and have profaned my holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane, neither have they showed difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I am profaned among them. The preachers and ministers have violated his law indeed. Many even say it was done away with. And they not only don't know the difference between clean and unclean physical food, but in the spiritual sense of the famine, they certainly don't know the difference between truth, clean food, and traditions of men, very unclean food. So they even profane the highest day of Christianity, the Passover, with Ishtar and her sex symbols of quick like a bunny, bunnies and fertility symbols like Ishtar's eggs. Not only is Easter not to be found in the New Testament, it is unsanctified, profane pollution of his Sabbath. Go, priests, go. Next, 27. Her princes in the midst thereof are like wolves ravening the prey, to shed blood and to destroy souls, to get dishonest gain. Good grief, Charlie Brown. We've got conspiracy and perversion everywhere. Even the governors are like wolves ravening the prey, to shed blood and to destroy souls, nephesh, and to get dishonest gain. Yet that about describes our leaders and politicians, doesn't it? Verse 28. And her prophets have daubed them with untempered mortar, seeing vanity and divining lies unto them, saying, Thus saith Yahweh Elohim, when Yahweh has not spoken. The churches should have been and should be educating our people in the word of Yahweh and his laws that he laid out for our freedom and from which our Constitution was taken. But no, they have whitewashed Christianity and reduced it to ceremony, to mere praise and worship and do-gooder deeds, and they have left out the word of Yahweh. And so we have allowed many non-Christians, even anti-Christians, to come and rule over us. Shame on us. Ezekiel 22, verse 29. The people of the land have used oppression and exercised robbery, and have vexed the poor and needy. Yea, they have oppressed the stranger wrongfully. We could write a book about the oppression of welfare and taxation and usury, and inflation and regulation, and the exploitation of our minority brethren, etc., etc. O Lord, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Verse 30. And I sought for a man among them that should make up the hedge and stand in the gap before me for the land, that I should not destroy it, but I found none. There was no man among them, but there would be Yahweh's, Jeremiah's, and Ezekiel's of the end time, his watchmen. Jeremiah 5, verse 1. Run ye to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem, and see now, and know, and seek in the broad places thereof, if ye can find a man, if there be any, that executeth judgment, that seeketh the truth, and I will pardon it. So the fire of our Father's wrath is coming, not maybe, but it shall come. Ezekiel 22, verse 31. Therefore have I poured out mine indignation upon them. I have consumed them with the fire of mine wrath. Their own way have I recompensed upon their heads, saith Yahweh Elohim. Father is not angry with his Ezekiels and his Jeremiahs and his elect of this final generation. He is indignant with them the daubing false prophets and profane priests of churchianity, the corrupt money-grabbing leaders, and he is about to give a new meaning to the term melting pot. Okay, that ends this study. Stay tuned next time for the next study. I've listed here different platforms that I'll be posting these messages on, these video studies, audio of Lance Knight. So give it a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this. And in the meantime, Yahweh bless.